Hi and welcome to Sustainable Profits. This is the place where we talk about sustainability and profits in relation to companies and nations around the world, and also tackling different topics in relation to both sustainability and profits. Thank you for joining me today, and I would like to remind you just to subscribe to this channel and make it excel. Now today I'm going to talk about a topic that has great interest for me personally, but also interest, I think, for many professionals around the world working in this space, but also for people who are not really into this space, which is the topic of politics and sustainability. To take it from beginning, it seems so that politics do not necessarily need sustainability, but sustainability certainly needs politics, and I will explain you actually how that works. As we know, there has been a lot of regulation happening around the world, from the US, Japan to Europe, on sustainability, communication and transparency related to how corporates address sustainability issues in their business operations. Most of this regulation that has been developed and is still developed in different parts of the world is related to one particular thing that most people actually don't understand or actually don't know about. And this particular thing is following. The entire regulation from US to Europe and Japan is targeting one particular thing only, and that is to increase the level of transparency that companies are reporting to the outside world regarding how they manage sustainability relevant risks in their business operations. This is really not about changing the business models. Either EU regulation or SEC regulation in the US or Financial Authority regulation in Japan is really addressing the underlying business model. It's solely focusing on increasing transparency and communication efforts by companies, regulating how they're going to communicate, not really how they're going to change their business model. So this is something that is creating, and it's part of this sort of a creation of greenwashing. It's creation of all of these kind of criticism that has been pointed towards sustainability efforts because, in a sense, the current political tools used to curb sustainability just to the domain of communication and reporting. What we really need and what sustainability needs, and that's why sustainability needs the politicians, is to change the way how they regulate the underlying business models. But you see, this is a very tricky thing for politicians. Most of the politicians are selected in most places in the world. It's a 4 or 5 years tenures. After 2 years, they are trying to sort of get re-elected next time. The short-term focus is also reflected in the way how they approach sustainability. It will be somebody else's problem going forward. It is a long-term perspective that is in place. And as such, also, politicians are trying to create the regulation that is not really too rigid toward companies, but actually allowing them to say that this is something, at least what we've done, to make these companies more sustainable. Now, increased transparency for people on the street does not necessarily mean they understand how these companies operate, because they don't have reference points. They have difficulties to understand the information. And in many cases, they have also big difficulties to compare the same companies in the same sector reporting on the same frameworks with a completely different data. So it's a mission impossible. One of the examples of this is one of the acronym. There are many acronyms, especially in Europe. You have CSRD, CSRSDD, you have different GRI, you have so many different acronyms. And one of the acronyms in financial industry, it's called SFDR. Sustainable Financial Disclosure Regulation acronym is supposed to regulate how companies managing money in Europe are classifying their investments in accordance with certain type of reporting rules stipulated in SFDR regulations. And again, if you go down the street and talk to people that you meet, your friends, family, whoever you want, about if their pension money, their investment savings, are done in accordance to SFDR regulations, most likely they will have a look at you and think that you're completely crazy, not understanding really what it means. This is telling you one thing. The regulators in European Union have managed actually to get this off the ground, a regulation that regulates the way how banks are communicating. But that actually doesn't change the underlying dynamics, because if the broader public and big institutions and stakeholders do not understand what the implications are, the really things will probably be the same as before. Now, what is the power of the politics? This is also very interesting because there is this very interesting notion out there that, sustainability, especially on the energy side, has been subsidized so heavily. Even in the countries in the Nordics, there's this big push saying that, well, this is not commercially viable. It's subsidized. Let me tell you a story. It's a very interesting story, and it's actually a secret not really talked about either in public, I would say, and journalists are really not covering this much. Looking globally, fossil fuel energy is subsidized 3 times more than renewable energy. The cost of these subsidies is passed on to you. And the cost of pollution, impacting your health, impacting the climate in various ways, long and short term, is passed on to you. There is a lot of estimates around there, but one of the most recent estimate is that the cost which is associated with fossil fuel subsidies, basically making it possible for further extraction of fossil fuels around the world, is creating an annual cost about $7 trillion. All of this is passed on to you. Now, sustainability really needs politics because the way how laws and regulations are shaped is also sort of a formalizing the level playing field for corporates. If corporates have a good understanding of the level playing field in terms of what they are required to do, what kind of products and services in future going to be associated with reputational or regulatory risk, and also what kind of market segments they can tap into with new products and services that are more sustainable, that makes it much easier for companies to navigate. Now, given the fact that we are living in a world that is rapidly changing, there has been some interesting cases, especially from the US, where you can clearly see that revised regulation, especially in regards to renewable energy in the US, has left many investors with a big question mark, and actually many companies suing the American government because of the change of regulation, since they have invested millions of dollars into developing different sources of renewable energy. The same thing goes for Europe, where there is a big risk that some of the regulation that has been in place in relation to, for instance, production of electrical vehicles, renewable energy production may be revised. And if such, that will also, of course, impact both the appetite, but also the long-term investment horizon for many investors and also for many companies. So going back to the sort of the dance between sustainability and politics, to me it seems still that sustainability truly needs politics, and it needs long-term politicians to take the stance for things that will happen not only for the next election season, but actually next 10, 15, 20 years. I know it's too much to ask, but the businesses in many cases are much more long-term oriented than the politicians are. And given this fast-changing level playing field, we really need to sort of get businesses, we need to help businesses with the politicians, with the political decisions that will create a ground, a solid, safe ground for companies to continue diversifying business models, diversifying energy dependency, and creating that sustainable profit that we really believe, and I also have experience on, can be created in that way. Politics usually sees sustainability as something that is underpinned other interests. We have unemployment, we have inflation, we have oil crisis, we have gas crisis. But all of this is actually part of the same narrative. Sustainability, from political point of view, is not seen as something that is strengthening resilience, strengthening capacity of the companies and countries to sustain going forward, is much more seen in a short-term perspective as something that will generate more cost and actually put companies and countries at disadvantage, which is of course not true. What sustainability, when done properly, is doing, it's securing the ability of the companies to basically excel in their business operations, cut their operation and capital costs, but also increase their profits. Of course, the time horizon is perspective, but in that context, the time horizon for what we're expecting to achieve cannot be next 2 years, cannot be next 5 years, it needs to be next 20, 30 years. That is the way how we need to think when it comes to politics and sustainability. Thanks for showing interest in sustainable profits. Again, please subscribe and make this channel grow and excel. Next time I will bring you to Japan, where I work on a daily basis with investments, and bring you some Japanese or Southeast Asian insights in what is really going on. Thank you very much, and see you soon again.